guys, I'm Janae, if you don't know me already. I make videos on things that I'm passionate about, what God teaches me, and stories about my life. And today I want to share a story about my biggest fear and why it is. I'm sharing this to give you a little idea of who I am and my past life, my story basically. And also because I just love sharing this story. It's quite fun to share. To get started, I was super clumsy. From the age 1 to 3, I cracked my head, cracked my chin, and broke my leg. So I guess my biggest fear is broken bones and just basically being dismantled from head to toe, and it scares me. So that's my biggest fear. This time I want to focus this story on how I broke my arm. So when I was 10 years old, I was at school and it was during winter and it was quite slushy outside. It was after snowfall and the sun was shining and the ground was just very slushy. It was like wet snow. And the school I went to was a K through 12, so kindergarten to senior year. And when we were coming in from recess, there was this hallway that entered into this ramp that went to our classes, and it was through the high school hall. And these kids would walk by with their shoes that were already wet, and there was no carpets or anything, and the ground was already wet and soaked. And I was wearing my little Ugg boots and having a good time stomping in the slush with my friends. When we entered the building, I slipped backwards and I got so embarrassed because half my class was behind me and their eyes were all on me. I think I started blushing and I got up really fast in reaction, and when I got up, I slipped forward and hit my arm in the frame of the doorway, and I hit my elbow on the doorway, and I broke it in 2 places. I broke it right here and here, and my arm was shaped as a banana. If I find the x-ray, I'll definitely show up here. I just remember my arm tingling. Like, I don't know if any of you guys ever broken a bone before, but it was tingling all over and it felt really weak, and my instinct was just to cry, so I was bawling. I think a teacher pushed me off to the side so the students couldn't pass by. And then my teacher, I don't think she really liked me during the time because I was Miss Chatterbox in my class, but she literally picked me up off the ground from the armpits, running me to the nurse's office. She looked so stressed in the moment, and I was just limping in her arms going like, what is happening? This sucks, my arm hurts. And I remember sitting there in the nurse's office, and one of my favorite teachers in the world, Mrs. Goff, was sitting there making sure I was okay and comforting me in that moment of distress. And I remember sitting there with my banana arm, which was totally a different shape, and I was telling Mrs. Goff how I was hoping it wasn't broken. I'm like, I hope it's not broken, I hope it's not broken. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm like looking at my banana arm and like, I hope it's just sprained. Do you think it's just sprained? And she's like, yeah, we'll see. My siblings were also in the school, and I was asking for them. I'm like, can you get my brother or my sister? And they're like, no, they're in class. And that upset my mom so much. She got so upset about that. She's like, whenever my daughter needs her siblings, you make sure they get out of class and come. You make sure of it. In that moment, my mom couldn't make it to the school because it was so icy outside, so my dad had to come, and we went to the hospital. They gave me a temporary cast. It was like a white cast, and they told me it was there to help the swelling. But little did I know that the next day we would go into the hospital and a whole new traumatic experience will await me. After settling down from that whole experience, we were getting ready to go to the hospital the next day. My mom remembers specifically this nurse telling her not to go in because she doesn't want to be there when it's too much. And my mom, being like the mama bear that she is, she's like, no, I'm going to go in and I need to be there for my daughter, no matter what, no matter anything. So we went into the room. The hospital was white and scary, and it smelled like a hospital. Besides that point, they took off my white cast. First, the nurse comes in, and they put this like numbing shot in my arm. I don't know what it numbed. I think it numbed my skin. I don't know why my skin needed to be numbed, but it was numbing something. And then they put my arm up on this little sling thing, and they hold my thumb and my like pinky by these like slings, and it's just sitting there. I like had no clue what's gonna happen, and then this doctor comes in. Ugh. He starts punching my arm in place. I didn't know any of this was going to happen beforehand. Good riddance. I didn't know, or else I would be like, no, I'm not going to manage.
I'm gonna live with this banana arm the rest of my life. It's gonna stay and it's gonna be there and I don't care.
I think my mom hardly knew either, but we were sitting there and this doctor just starts crunching my arm in place, and I can't remember my whole reaction, but I remember like saying the whole time like, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, and he's like,
it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt.
The whole time as he's like doing it. It was good what they were doing because it was shaped as a banana and they were fixing the banana shape. You know, if they didn't have a banana arm for the rest of my life. I don't have a time frame on how long this was going on. To me, it felt like 5 minutes. It was such a traumatic experience for me, but my mom says it was an hour long. I think that's the really cool thing about brains and our bodies is like when we're going through a traumatic experience, our brain speeds up the process. It's like, okay, this needs to get over with. So we're just it's not even gonna feel like a minute. And that's what it felt like. I was just really focused on the pain because it was painful. Afterwards, I'm like just exhausted from this, and the doctor puts on my cast. And he's like this old white man. I don't know if I should say that, old white man. He was an old man with white hair, and he was, yeah, and he had glasses, and he was like pretty scrawny. And while he's putting on my cast, and I chose a green cast, and it went up to my elbow. So I asked him like, well, have you ever broken a bone before? He's like,
no, I haven't.
And I got so angry at him. I didn't see anything, but I just started glaring at him like,
how do you know that didn't hurt? In my head I was like saying like, how did you know? Like, you've never broken a bone in your life. How would you know it hurts?
because the whole time he was crunching my arm, he's like,
This doesn't hurt.
and I'm like, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. But I was so angry at him. Like, that's what I held a grudge on, and I still kind of get frustrated about it. Obviously, I have more understanding of the whole story now. I laugh more about it now, but it was so horrible that he did that. After a while, this part of my broken bone healed. It healed faster than this part right here. This part took longer. I think it was bigger. I had to go back to the doctors to get my cast changed. The same doctor who put my arm into place, who crunched it into place, came into the room. I knew he wasn't going to do anything or cause any harm to me, but I think subconsciously I would not let him touch me. I started crying and bawling and going to the farthest end of the room, and my mom was there, and I'm like, no, don't change my cast, don't let him touch me. I was just adamant at not letting this doctor touch me, even though I know he wasn't going to hurt me. It was kind of like my body's defense is like, no way, like this isn't gonna happen, you're not gonna touch me. So I was going like, I would love to keep this cast on, like he's not touching me. He left and came back a couple of times, and my mom was trying to bribe me with buying me clothes because it's still a weakness for me, but when I was younger, that was definitely what drive me to do something. So I was like,
I'll buy you a whole new outfit. I'll buy you a whole new outfit if you have him change your cast. So you can't keep that cast on, or else your elbow won't be able to move afterwards, or it'll get stuck and you have to go through surgery.
Or what else did she say? It was just needed to be done. My cast needed to be changed, but subconsciously my mind was against that doctor touching me again. I think solely because he hurt me, even though it was for my good, he wasn't going to do it. So thank goodness this nurse came in, and she was already a mom and all that stuff, and she was so sweet, and she knew how to change casts. So she changed my purple cast to a green one, and it went up to there. She was so kind. She was just talking to me and telling me her kids went to the school I went to, and she was just very lovely. Obviously the opposite energy from that doctor that I didn't want to touch me. And then I wore that cast for a while, and then I got it off and my arm was really skinny, and then it went back to normal and it was fine. Because of that, I kind of have like an awkward arm. I did ballet for a while, and the teacher would try to correct my arm to get like the right form, because you're supposed to have like the perfect form, and this one had this little crookedness to it, and because my arm is still a little crooked.
And I can't exercise now.
See, I just show this to people because I find it really interesting. I haven't noticed this until I got older, and I noticed it when I was trying to get change from when I was buying coffee someplace, and I noticed when I work out. But like, see, you can put your like arm completely straight there. Like your hand can turn all the way around, but this arm only goes that far, if you guys can see it. I know that's like, it only goes so far, like I can't. And when I do exercises, so if you were to do this and put your arms up, say I can't do it with this arm because it looks like that. It like works different muscles than the ones that it's supposed to, and So I don't tend to work out my arms unless it's like push-ups because I just have little weak arms, which it wouldn't be even, and it would definitely bother me. That was a story of my broken bone. That is one of my biggest fears, is breaking bones, and the fear usually happens at night when I'm like laying in bed. I just start getting super anxious about these things. Like I have nightmares before where, like how I talked about my arm and breaking it, I have nightmares of breaking it again, but it being 10 times worse, where I imagine my arm going through a garbage truck and being crushed by the garbage truck things that crush the trash. I imagine my arm being crushed like that and being like completely dismantled. And I dislocated my knee a while back while dancing with my cousin at my sister's wedding. That's a whole story in its own, but I have dreams of it not being dislocated, but my leg bent in the other direction. So this is my thigh and knee, and then my leg going poof and broken. Those are just like a few of my nightmares, and my conversation in my head is like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to do anything ever again. You can literally walk down the steps and something bad can happen or whatever, and I even pray to God. I'm like,
Lord Jesus, please don't let me ever break a bone again. Lord, please, 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 let this never happen again.
the places I've injured start kind of aching while thinking about this. So my arm aches, my knee ache. My way of talking myself down from the fear is thinking that we're going to die anyways. It's kind of thinking in the light of eternity that there's hope in Christ and that I have a future outside of this world, and even if I lose both my arms or this arm broken again, there's hope and there's a future, but also there's something to live for. And if you were to die, that's not worth stop living. Would you rather die, I guess, from not living or living? I don't know if I make sense, but it feels rational, but it's really irrational fear. But God is bigger than those fears. Life is definitely worth living despite dying, because we're gonna die anyways. I know this got dark. I don't want to live in regret because I'm afraid. And fear comes kind of out of nowhere, it sometimes feels like. I think what also helps is knowing that my God is a big God. That was my story, and I'll be happy to share my other stories on how I
Dislocated my knee, broke my leg, cracked my chin, and cracked my head open.
Let's hope that nothing else happens. And thank you for coming along and hearing this story and hearing a little bit about me and something odd about me and my fears and something just very interesting. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a really good day today. And if you guys want to, please follow and like and subscribe and do whatever those YouTube things people do to continue to follow along, I guess. If you enjoyed this, thank you, and I love you guys, and goodbye. See you later. Peace.